We're brothers. We're happy and we're singing and we're colored. Give me a high five.
What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and of course, I'm here with my guy Big Game James. Today is the best of enemies, but today we obviously have the NFC East Roundtable going on. So I'm excited about that, and of course, I have my YouTube going, so it threw me off. But I'm ready for this. I'm excited. We got my guy George Carmi, we got my guy Ruben back. So we're gonna do this. Big Game James. James, how are you doing? How has your week been, brother?
It's been good, Hey, just been grinding out there. We talking about Joe with the kids, the young men out there. Been knocking out the interviews. If you'd like to go check that out, we're just out here grinding for the kids. We just had to drop another awesome one quarterback out of Fairfax, Virginia, Aiden Dash. So that's really what we've been grinding and just getting ready for training camp, big dog. You're heading down to California the first week of August to check it out myself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this is his before you came in, we were all talking about this. Football is slowly approaching. We're almost at that time where things actually matter, right? Where we're having conversations that aren't just, based off of what we're seeing, what we're thinking. It's going to be hitting, they're going to be out there, they're going to be going crazy. So we want to figure out what the NFC East is doing. So to do that, we went out there and got some guys that we've had on the show before. We'll start with my guy George Carmi. George Carmi, you guys know George. George has been on my channel plenty of times. He's been on Best of Enemies before. But if you don't know, let him know who you are, and then Ruben, you can take over and let him know who you are.
What's up, bro? Thank you for having me. Appreciate it, Joe. I'm George Carmi for Full Press Coverage. I host the Full Press Commanders podcast. I'm a friend of the show. I love working with you, bro. I'm happy to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Hi, guys. I'm Ruben from Ranting with Ruben. Really new to this, but thanks again, Joe, for having me on and giving me the opportunity. And great chance to work with some great guys. So thanks again, guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I want to do it like this. We're going to probably have to go through many comments. I'm sure people got many questions they want to ask every respective team, and I'll get to that. But the first thing I really want to go through, and I want to start with you, James, obviously. We were at a point, me and you talked about this a little bit more at length, but we were at a point, before the draft, and then we were at a point, right before free agency, all that. How do you feel right now about your Cowboys? What changes do you think still need to be made? What changes do you like? Kind of an overview of what you went through this offseason as a Cowboys fan, what you're thinking about it.
Well, as we've said it time and time again, Dallas doesn't never really do anything in free agency. We understand what Dallas does. They're all about saving, getting deals, not really going over the top, and really building through the draft. So that's happened once again. So if you're going to ask me what the state of the Cowboys is, how I feel right now is they're relying on a lot of young players as usual. The top guys that they have, the Dak Prescotts, the CeeDee Lambs, the DeMarcus Lawrence, your Micah Parsons now of the world, those are going to be the guys that are really going to have to step up and be those guys. We lost Randy Gregory, Amari Cooper, Leo Collins, to name a few. I feel like it took maybe some steps back with the offense, with Amari Cooper leaving and Michael Gallup being hurt. You hope CeeDee Lamb doesn't have any injuries because then you're relying on a Jalen Tolbert, James Washington. So those kind of things I feel are kind of thin, and I'm keeping my eye on it. Like I said, we'll see what happens in training camp because, as I said before, it's a lot of young guys the Cowboys are relying on. Again, this rookie class, the underclassmen from last year. It's a young guy, young team driven for the Cowboys right now, and it's like I said, it's on our stars.
Yeah. And I want to kind of throw the same question at you, George. Obviously, we were talking before. I told you it was hard. I haven't really kept up with the Washington Commanders this offseason. So kind of what headlined your offseason? Like how do you feel so far about what the Commanders have done to try and command this NFC East? You like what I did there?
Okay.
Like already
I do like that. I think the general sense in DC is optimism. I think the team thinks that last year kind of went astray at the end of the year. We were basically, I think we were like 7-7 approaching the end of the year. Then COVID hit, and things just kind of went downhill. Montez Sweat's brother passed away. Chase Young tore his ACL. We just kind of had a negative end of the season that fell to 7-10, and essentially, I think we just had a bad taste in our mouth. And this offseason, we went big. We were QB hunting. We basically wanted to get a quarterback to basically fill that missing piece, because Heineke filled in admirably for Ryan Fitzpatrick last year, but he wasn't our original game plan. He basically was a backup that had to start 17 games. It was kind of a roller coaster ride. We had high hopes. We all can reflect on it now. There's Aaron Rodgers talk. There's Russell Wilson talk. There's Deshaun Watson talk. There's all this talk about quarterbacks being loose in the NFL. And Washington went big. They tried to go hard at Russell Wilson and offered 3 first-round picks for him. That whiffed. It didn't work out for us. It was kind of a slap in the face, because Monday was, we're not going to trade Russell Wilson. Wednesday, the Seahawks trade Russell Wilson. And basically we're sitting there like, all right, what are we going to do now? So we picked up someone that's familiar to the Eagles, Carson Wentz. We view him as an upgrade over what Taylor Heineke was. So we are optimistic there. And just like James said, I think we're kind of hoping that everything kind of regresses back to the means, like Chase Young having a bounce back season, Montez Sweat playing 17 games, Carson Wentz being better than Taylor Heineke, and finally having Curtis Samuel play. So between all of that with our draft, we are optimistic, and we're kind of eyeing like a wild card playoff run is what we're seeing down in DC. It's your thoughts?
Yeah. We were talking, like I said before, and you even said you think that it's going to be the Eagles, it's going to be the Cowboys, and possibly Washington fighting for that division. Those are strong words. Those are fighting words in a lot of bars. You know what I'm saying? But it is off season, so we're gonna be cool about it. But Ruben, I want to ask you basically the same question. But look, it's ranting with Ruben, right? I don't think that you've had much to rant about this offseason. This offseason, you guys have made some pretty good moves. You guys have done some good things, not just on the field, but as well as your coaching staff, some front office moves. So again, I want to kind of roll the question to you. What do you see from the Giants in this offseason? How did you feel about it? And what are you looking at moving forward?
Well, first things first, I just want to say, I like the fact that everyone's predicting us to be last in the division. And that's okay. It happens all the time, so it's okay. We can handle it. We know if you pay attention to the Giants, we've had talent on our teams, but we've had this thing called an injury bug basically in the last 10 years that has bit us over and over and over. When you have your quarterback go down 6 games in the season and you have your backup as Mike Glennon, I'm sorry, man. Well, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's not going to be positive. Let's just put it that way. So let's start with this. I like Joe Judge. I was sad to see Joe Judge go. Again, that's just an opinion, okay? But I did like Joe Judge. We brought in a brand new coach. At the beginning, I thought, okay, this guy, he's done a great job in Buffalo, and his offense should be fantastic. But then I hear immediately that he's not sure he's going to call plays. So automatically my first worry is you can't bring in a guy in here because you think he's a great play caller, but then tell him he's not going to make the play calls, because then what's the purpose? Okay. So that was my first worry immediately. Okay. But then we go through the draft, and I have to be honest, I think this guy hit like almost a bullseye on every pick in this draft. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic, but I have to be honest. He started out at the beginning of the season, and he said, I'm going to make the offensive line a priority. And guess what? He was able to do that after 3 prior coaches tried and could not. Okay, so automatically optimistic right there. Okay, then you come in here, you pick up Kafka from Kansas City, and now he's the one technically that's calling the plays. And guess what? I'm not so worried about the ball not calling plays if you got Kafka calling plays for you, because he helped Mahomes get to where Mahomes is now. Okay, so automatically more optimism. Okay, so great draft. It looks like our GM knows what he's doing, which we haven't seen in years. Okay, and it looks like our coach, the more and more we watch, it looks like the players love him. I thought we had that with Judge, but you can actually see a difference. Last year with Judge, it was more of a fear. This season with the Bowl, it's just optimism. And then you bring in Winky from Baltimore, and Winky saying, hey, listen, I'm the new defensive coordinator. We're no longer going to be patient. We're going to blitz, blitz, blitz. We've been number one in blitzing in Baltimore for like 6 out of the last 7 years, and it's because of Winky. Okay, so again, I'm sorry, more optimism. So all I'm saying is at this moment, so I don't continue the rant longer than I should, I'm just going to say this. Thanks for putting us in last, guys. Thanks for falling asleep on us. I think we're going to surprise people. Do I believe we're going to get to the Super Bowl? No. But I didn't think we were going to do that in 2007 either. So all I'm saying to you is I'm optimistic. I'm excited. And honestly, I'm tired of waiting. Like, when is it going to get here already? Is it just me? I'll just leave it at that. Is it just me?
And there's a lot of optimism in this room, apparently. I didn't know the whole NFC felt so, you know what I'm saying? As an Eagles fan, we feeling pretty tough. We got our chest stuck out, but dang, okay. I like it. I like it. It's not going to be easy, you know, get over wins. Shout out to JJ the Mime. He sent you a super chat if you want to read it. You know what I'm saying?
He said in the QB bug, shout out to my dog JJ the Mime, says the QB bug too because Jones sucks, hurt, not hurt. I mean, you know, we ain't hating on the Giants, like I said. Hey, I appreciate your optimism over there. I didn't think they did bad in the draft. We were about to draft. You know, if they do really good, it can help y'all. And I feel like you guys got better in the draft. But, and it's not hating on y'all. Still gonna be in last place this year.
That's okay. We'll see. That's why we play the game. That's
why we play.
That's why we play.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Ruben, let you. I don't know if you want to defend that statement. I don't know if you want to say something about the Daniel Jones.
It's
statement.
Okay. Daniel, sorry to interrupt there, Joe.
No, you're good.
With Daniel Jones, I've never seen a player more criticized than Daniel Jones since he's been drafted. I have to be honest. And if you look at the stats, yeah, he hasn't put up the astronomical numbers, okay? But he's shown in the 3 seasons that he's QBing, he's one of the best deep throwing QBs in football, okay? And look at the stats. They show it. He's one of the best, okay? And now what happened? We had Judge pull him back a little and told him, you can't make a mistake. You can't make a mistake. And you got a scared QB. And then you have an offensive line that didn't give him more than 3 seconds. I mean, come on, guys. Even if you're not a Giant fan, you can't tell me that everybody didn't eat our offensive line. Everyone. My son came off the bench and scored on it and got a All right, come on, guys. It was horrible. We've had a terrible offensive line for 7 years, and then we have injuries. Now, let's say this. Let's say Daniel Jones comes back and he plays average, okay? Let's say Barkley comes back and he plays average, okay? Let's say, and again, we're talking about 2 injuries. We say Galladay, who didn't have a great season because he was hurt throughout the whole season and our offensive didn't match him. Let's say he comes back and he has an average season, okay? So we're talking about your QB having an average season, an average QB, okay? At least top 15 in the NFL. So let's say QB having an average season, my running back having an average season, my offensive line having an average season, and guess what? We still improve. Think about it. Barkley alone, he came out, he had 92 receiving yards his first season. We haven't given him the ball like that at all. You know what they're saying all spring? They're saying all spring Kafka's got him going Barkley all day. Barkley on a wheel route. Barkley sprinting out to the left, taking a toss. Barkley looking amazing. Remember, he had a large injury. He had a serious injury that normally takes about 2 years to get better. And guess what? He feels amazing right now. So again, optimistic. I'm not worried about people crying about Daniel Jones. It's been going on since the beginning. They did the same thing about Eli Manning. How many Sundays did I hear Eli Manning look like he had Down syndrome? But he won 2 Super Bowls.
But he won 2 Super Bowls. Right, we're not gonna keep beating up on the Giants. We're not gonna keep beating up on the Giants. But shout out to JJ. I sent you another $4.99.
No, he's not convinced. Okay, man. Bring it on. We love it.
He's not convinced. Look, I'll say this much because it is going to parlay into a question, and I want to get James' opinion on this. But I will say this. I think the Eagles and the Giants sit in a very similar situation. All the parts that we added may not mean nothing if the quarterback can't improve upon what they did last season. So I will say we're close to the same boat. I will take Jalen Hurts over Daniel Jones 10 times out of 9, or however the saying goes. But I want to ask this because realistically, I'll say this. I don't care. We did our top 32 list. So me and James are kind of in agreement here. I do think that Dak Prescott is the best quarterback in the NFC East. So knowing that and kind of we'll tip that hat at you, right, James? Where do you look at these guys? And then I want to go through all of us as well. But where would you rank these guys? If we're just giving you the nod saying Dak is that guy, where, who are you putting number 2? Who are you putting? How do you see it?
Well, I think it's going to be a battle. I think this is where Jalen Hurts really, I told you, this is where the battle where I feel like first place goes, because I told you Dak Prescott, I feel like that's the edge right now over the Philadelphia Eagles, and why we would be a repeat champion because of that. Carson Wentz, I said I don't think Carson Wentz is this terrible quarterback. Everybody's saying Carson Wentz is garbage and trash. I don't believe that. I feel like Carson Wentz is going to help the Washington Commanders get a few more wins, because I feel like they have a legitimate quarterback. But I also feel like Carson Wentz is what he is, in my opinion. I feel like we've seen what he was, and I feel like once you've seen it in 2 organizations, that's what you are. But he's going to win you games because he does have good talent. We've seen it even in the Colts last year. He has the talent to win games, and Washington is putting a team around him. So I think that's going to help. So right now, if I'm going to rank it, is Dak Prescott. I'm going to put Carson Wentz a slight head above Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts still needs to prove. Carson Wentz has proved more in the game than Jalen Hurts. You know what I'm saying? It's just my opinion on that. So I'm going to give the edge to Carson Wentz right here. And Jalen Hurts, this is the proving grounds for Jalen Hurts. So I'm putting Jalen Hurts as a close third. And then Daniel Jones, I'm sorry, Ruben, I heard all your talk, and I appreciate your love and all that talk. But Daniel Jones is the bottom of the barrel for me. And unless Daniel Jones proves, because it's been how many years now, you kind of know what you are. So after these different coordinators, we kind of know what you are as a quarterback. This might be his last hurrah, but I think what we seen kind of what Daniel Jones is, I just don't think he's like the franchise guy. Just my opinion. Not saying he's a bad quarterback. Just don't think he's the franchise guy, big dog.
Oh boy, Adam.
And then George, I want to take the same question.
I'm right there with James, man. I really appreciate that. And, Joe, you work with me long enough, man. I'll be objective and I'll keep it real. I do think Dak Prescott is the class of the NFC East. I respect him. I think that's what puts the Cowboys in that dangerous perspective, that dangerous realm compared to the other NFC East teams. Yeah. If you're asking me honestly, I do think Carson Wentz is the second best quarterback in the division. Basically, he averages 27 touchdowns and 7 picks. His big criticism is that he plays hero ball. He doesn't check down to his running back, so he has some big turnovers in regard to that. But in regard to, walking up to the line of scrimmage, having the proper checks, having the offensive line engage, distributing the ball, getting rid of the ball quickly, Carson Wentz has all of that. And I think now walking into Washington, he's going to have an array of weapons that he hasn't had before. He's going to have Terry McLaurin, who's legit, Jahan Dotson, who we're going to talk about later on in the podcast, who's our first round pick, a great slot wide receiver, and finally Curtis Samuel coming to, hopefully Curtis Samuel actually producing over there. So with that, Antonio Gibson, our new running back, Brian Robinson from Alabama, he's going to have some weapons around him. So I do think he is going to produce at an effective rate. And I'm excited about that. I don't think it's going to be a world beater. I don't think it's not going to rejuvenate his career or anything, but he's going to give out that QB 15, 14, 17 vibe in the middle of the pack right there. And I think that's enough with our defense kind of holding it down. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is a different type of quarterback. He's more dynamic than Carson Wentz. He runs the ball. He can be, he can create on his own, but I'm yet to see him be accurate as a quarterback consistently. And we'll see that with AJ Brown. And then Daniel Jones, man, I'll give Ruben this. Whenever Daniel Jones plays the Washington Redskins Commanders Washington football team, he's Jesus Christ. That guy freaking is like Mike Vick reincarnate. He just freaking balls the hell out. So I'll give you that, but I don't see that happening over 17 games. I think Daniel Jones is going to be replaced next year. I think the Giants are probably going to have a kind of more of a top 10 pick. We'll see what happens, but I think he's not going to be the quarterback next year. Daniel Jones is a solid quarterback, but I think he kind of has the whole career backup realm on him as opposed to a solid starter, in my opinion.
Okay.
All right, so Ruben, I feel bad. I apologize because like it's been 20 minutes of
Why?
just telling you Daniel Jones ain't that guy. But, but how would you realistically, how would you look at it? How do you rank these quarterbacks and why?
Honestly, don't apologize at all. I enjoy this, man. Like this
You
is
know,
great,
yeah.
right? And to be honest with you, it's just an opinion. Everyone's giving their opinion. I mean, if we're going to be factual and say what's my true, okay, take me off the camera, ask me one on one, what do you think about these QBs in this division? And without throwing any stats, just going by what I've seen so far, I'm going to say sadly, I have to put Dak in first position. It's something that I don't want to do. It's something that I'm not excited about because I don't think that's that accurate. Okay.
Yeah.
However, when push comes to shove, he's definitely the best QB in our division. But this is where I differ from everybody else. Okay. When you ask me who's second, who's third, who's fourth, are you guys bugging? All three of them are in third and fourth place. Nobody knows what's going to happen with any one of those three quarterbacks besides Dak. I mean, let's be honest. Wentz is a great quarterback. He's shown when he can stay healthy that he can actually do big things. And don't get me wrong, look what Ron Rivera's done with that team. I'm sorry. To me, you guys were the laughing stock of the NFC East for years. Ron Rivera gets there, and you guys are a hard game every week, every Sunday. Okay? So it's hard for me to say Wentz is not number two, but at the same token, Wentz gets hurt so often. So it's like, to me, if you want to be realistic, we have three QBs out of the four QBs. All three of them, this is their year to make or break them, okay? I'm sorry. Daniel Jones, no ifs, ands, and buts about it. He hasn't had an offensive line. He hasn't even had a healthy running back, okay? And yet he's played every week and stayed there. So let me just put it this way. You got Feliciano at center. Somebody asked earlier, who's playing center? So I said Feliciano. At left tackle, you got our left tackle that killed it, Thomas, last year. Now you got Neal at right tackle. Automatically, that's the best offensive line we've had in 10 years. Yeah. And we're not even talking about the other guys, okay? The Glowinskis that we just got from the Colts, which is our right guard, who's probably going to make our running game significantly better, okay? But again, not to go into a rant, all I'm trying to say to you is if you're going to be realistic, it's Daniel Jones make or break year. It's Carson Wentz. Can he show people that he can stay healthy and he can win? And I mean, think about it. Frank loved Carson. Okay, did you watch? What is it? Not Inside the
Hard
NFL.
Knocks. Hard Knocks.
There you go. That Hard Knocks. If you watch Hard Knocks, he loved Wentz. You thought he would never let Wentz go. Like he was gonna ride and die with Wentz for the next 20 years. And look what happened. A year later, he got rid of him. Okay. So
what does Ursay though? We can talk about that later on though. But
true.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you think about it, Wentz has to have a big season.
He does.
Or you got to get him out of there. Daniel Jones has to have a big season. Oh, you got to get out of there. And be honest with you, Jalen Hurts does not excite me. I love playing the Eagles now. Do you know why? Because it's not Donovan McNabb.
Oh God.
Okay, it's not.
Can I jump in, Joe? Let me jump in real quick. Is that cool?
I just realized I had this chat up for like 10 minutes.
No. So let me give the Eagles a little bit of props too, because me and Joe talks often, man. Like Jalen Hurts, the only knock on him is his accuracy, right? He is a mobile quarterback. Big. He's pretty small. It is big. I'll give you that. He has innate leadership qualities. He's loved in the locker room. He has a good connection with AJ Brown. I like Jalen Hurts. I just don't think I would root for him, but the fact he's on the Eagles, I can't root for him. But I do like him as a player. I hope he does a good job, right? What I wanted to say though is a lot of people in the chat are blowing up Ron Rivera and saying he's trash. I'll give you this, right? Ron Rivera, I don't think he's that revolutionary offensive mind. Like I think in order to win in the league, you need like an Andy Reid or a Sean Payton, or you need like a Sean McVay. You need someone like that to take you over the edge. But Ron Rivera is kind of what the Commanders need right now. And my vision with Ron Rivera is that like he's a culture changer. He's like that old school that like he can take that criticism in the media and he can get lit up by all the Washington Post news articles and all that crap and take it and keep this ship, on sale or whatever, keep everything okay. But I think eventually what's going to happen is he's going to kind of plateau to where they're like 500 every year and so on and so forth. And then they're going to get like a new up and coming offensive coordinator to kind of take over. That's kind of my vision of him. So like for those of you digging that he's trash, I don't think he's not there's different types of coaches, and he's not that offensive mind. He's more of like the culture builder. We need that because we didn't have culture for a while in DC. That's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I didn't have a football name for a while. Yeah, I didn't have a team name. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
hard to have
I'm
culture.
I'm agree with that. I'm agree with what George is saying right there as far as Ron Rivera, in my opinion. I feel like the way they had his approach is just like he said, he can take bullets because he's kind of built like that. He was that football player when he played, and that's the way his kind of mantra is. Even when he was at the Carolina Panthers, when they were criticizing him, he kind of could keep it afloat because he could eat those bullets. He has the type of personality as a coach that, you know, he could keep those things together, even with a lot of people saying things around him. But once again, I agree with George says that, you know, it's going to plateau. It's not something that's going to be a 5, 6, 7 year guy that's going to year in and year out going to do that. It's going to go for so long. People will get tired of it. But I feel like that's the time where you're doing your search to get your guy that you probably really want, and he can just hold the fort down while you have that search.
Facts. Yeah. And look, when it comes to ranking the quarterbacks, I think what Ruben said is honestly very spot on. I think that, it's Dak than everybody else right now. But look, I think Jalen Hurts has every opportunity to put his name up there as either number 2 or 1A, 1B, or maybe even better than Dak if he takes a huge leap with his, accuracy. And realistically, it's not even just his accuracy to me. It really comes down to being able to anticipate throws. Like, he likes to throw where the receivers are, not where they're going to be. And you can't do that in the NFL. You could get away with that in college football. You can't do that in the NFL. Those windows are a lot tighter. The DBs are a lot more talented. So you have to be able to read the field, read the defense, and know where to place those balls. So that's the biggest thing for me. And then we see a lot of, arm strength guy. A lot of people are on the train that he has no arm strength. But realistically, it's just that anticipation. You know what I'm saying? He has to be able to see where the guy's going and get it there. So that's a whole nother conversation. But I say all that to say this. I will give you that Carson Wentz right now. If you had to, go into a game and say who's going to have the better game, the better stats, just game one, you look at what Carson Wentz has, you look at what he's been able to do. And we've said this off camera. I think I've said this on camera before. This is probably the best offense, that he's had in a long time, ever. This is probably the best offense he's had ever, realistically. Best wide receiving duo, best, not best offensive line, but it's good. It's good enough. You got 2 good running backs out there. You got a good coach. So there's no reason why this shouldn't work for him. You obviously got a good tight end. So I can understand why somebody would put him over Jalen Hurts right now. But I think it's very, very close. And I would put Jalen Hurts over Carson Wentz, but I understand why you would put Carson over Jalen Hurts. So I have Jalen 2 and then Carson 3. And then, I think Daniel Jones is a great guy. He runs really fast. You know what I'm saying? It's fun to watch him run.
Good charity work.
And I'll even say this. I went out of my way last year to tell people that I thought that Daniel Jones was actually going to do something prior to last season. I think I even told you, George, like, I really thought that he was going to have a really good year last year. And, because of that last 8 games in his rookie year, he just looked like something clicked. And when you said that they kind of dialed it down when the new coaching staff came in, that made sense because I don't think he threw over like 300 yards once in the whole year. So, I mean, that makes sense that he was, maybe in his head too much, maybe less work. I don't know, but I'm not jumping off a cliff for Daniel Jones ever again. So he's going to be number 4 for me right now. But I want to ask you guys this because somebody was talking about, or people were talking in here, basically about, shout out to the chat, first of all. We got over 80 people in here. You know what I'm saying? You guys are killing it. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. Go check out my guy, George Carmi, if it's Twitter, if it's full press coverage. It's live on their show as well right now. So definitely go show them love. They do their thing. They're a great show. But you guys were talking about, you guys being the chat, where does the NFC East fall now? All the teams got a little bit better. We are tired of those NFC least statements, right? So at least NFC wise, where is this division? Are we one of the stronger ones now? Are we one of the weaker ones now? We can start with you, James. How you feeling about that?
I mean, I think we're middle of the pack right now. I think we all had pretty decent drafts, but I still feel like we're middle of the pack. And I've said it to all you guys before. I feel like coaching. We just talked about our coaches. Mike McCarthy, he's on the hot seat right now. I mean, he has to do better than he has, especially with this last year falling short the way we did. He's on the hot seat. You just guys, your guy's a second-year guy over there, Joe. And yes, he had a first year where you hit the playoffs, right? But now there's the expectation. You got to repeat that, especially with everything that you have added onto the team. Okay, and then even when you talk about Ron Rivera, we've already talked about him and his situation. I don't feel like he's that guy. And then you coming with Ruben, I mean, you're starting over again. I feel like it's so. I feel like it's the coaches have to really take the level of the East, in my opinion, to a higher level. I feel like we got a talent across the board, but it's the coaching right now, man. A lot of our coaches right now are on hot spots.
Yeah, facts. Enjoy. Well, actually, we'll switch it up. Ruben, you can go first, and then we'll go to George.
Yeah, give it to the talkative guy first. Let's just put it this way. To me, I look at each team individually, and it's the first time where I actually say to myself, wow, this team is actually a good team. So, I start from the beginning. I look at Dallas, and I say to myself, I thought Dallas lost his best opportunity the last 2 years. However, even with all the subtractions that have taken place, I still worry about Dallas because they still have speed and talent in the most important skilled positions. Okay. So Dallas, to me, is already going to be a better team in our division as they have been the last couple of years. When I look at Washington, I started out my last conversation by saying, I think Ron Rivera has done a hell of a job. And I think he's really changed the mindset of that team. And I think you guys are hard out now. When you hear me say hard out, that means if we can get you out, it's not going to be easy. Okay. Blood, sweat, and tears. So to me, Washington's a much better team. When I look at the Eagles, I'm sorry, the Eagles have talent like Dallas in all the special skilled positions. And then they also have it at the QB spot also, which even though I'm not in love with Hurts, and I think he's not accurate, and I don't see him as a Super Bowl winner, I still see him as a dangerous threat. I still see him as somebody that can take it off, you hear me? I can't speak. But basically fake it to the running back, take off on you guys. You have nowhere you go. There's so many things you can do with Hurts athletically. So when I think of us, this is the first time that I've looked at the division and I thought to myself, wow, Dallas seems to, even with the subtractions, still be in a really good position. The Eagles, even with some subtractions, they've added some additions that made them better. I look at the Redskins. I look at the Commanders, and I say to myself, wow, they've improved, and Ron Rivera's done a great job with that team. And now I look at what my team has done recently in this last year. While it's only been year one, I'm pretty shocked, and it makes me feel possible that we could be the Bengals this year. I'm not saying we will be, but it's possible. So when I think of our division, I think we're not going to be a joke anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I think any one of our teams, this is the first time that I look at all four teams and I go, man, we're all a hard out. I'm sorry. We're all going to be a hard out for each other. 2 games this season. It's going to be hard. We're going to beat each other the hell up. And then anybody that comes to us or we go to them, I think they're going to have their hands full. You know why? Because it's the first time I see all 4 teams look good on offense, defense, and special teams for the first time in years. Not just Dallas, not just the Eagles. I see talent on the Giants. I see major talent on the Commanders. That's what I believe. I think we're going to be a hard out this season, guys. A great division.
All right, I'll jump on this. So I think I kind of like what both y'all said. I'm kind of with James. I think we're kind of middle of the pack. I think the class of the NFL is the AFC West, man. If you look at the AFC West with the Raiders, the Broncos, the Chiefs over there, NFC West is pretty stacked too. Got the defending champ, the Rams, got the Cardinals, the 49ers. If they can put things together with Trey Lance, will be pretty solid over there too. I honestly think that the NFC East is going to provide 2 wild card teams into the playoffs, and they might even provide 3. They have the whole like double wild card they offer now this year. So, they started last year. So that could potentially come down to the Washington Commanders, the Eagles, and the Giants. In the Cowboys, what I honestly believe. I don't think the Giants are going to be 4-13 again this year. I think they're going to be more of like a 7-10 kind of team. They're going to have like maybe 6, 7, 8 wins, something along those lines. They're not going to be a pushover team. So I think they are going to be better. But I do think that we are going to be pretty deep all across the board. Do I think that we're going to be Super Bowl contenders? I don't know. I think we all kind of have some deficits on our teams that we aren't going to be world beaters. But at the same time, once you get into the tournament, you can do whatever you like, right? The Cowboys looked ridiculous last year. Like I was talking to Joe pre-show. I was at the home game when the Cowboys came against Washington, and I saw Micah Parsons in person. That's the closest I've seen like a live Lawrence Taylor in years. That guy was a freaking maniac. He just tearing things up, and he was just disruptor. Like we couldn't stop him on Washington's line. So they had the number one offense in the league with like 500 points last year too in Dallas. So even though they lost Amari Cooper, they could drop down to what the 10th best offense in the league or something like that. They're still gonna be pretty damn good. So the Cowboys are legit. I think it's going to be between the Cowboys, Giants, and sorry, I keep saying the Giants, Cowboys, Eagles, and Commanders.
Ruben got all in your head now.
I think in my head. Daniel Jones MVP, man. I didn't realize that. So I think it's going to be kind of a tight race over there. But like we're not going to be tough. National people don't know what they're talking about. The NFC least kind of putting us down. They don't know all the nuances and all the changes that we've done in our division. So I think we're going to be better than what people think. I think we're going to be like 12 wins will be the top of the division, 7 wins the bottom of the division. We're going to be pretty solid across the board, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I think my bad, Joe. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think one of the things that's going to be that's going to help the NFC East, in my opinion, if I look at all our teams, we're going to have. If I look at the Eagles and I look at the Cowboys and I look at the Commanders and the Giants, I think defensively, I look at all our teams. I like where they're at defensively. And I think that's one of the reasons why Ruben can say, if you're playing the NFC East teams, you're going to have a tough out because our defenses are going to be tough for you. And that's going to be we're going to give problems to a lot of teams that we play. All of our teams individually going to give teams a lot of problems defensively, because that's where I see our talent lying right now. A lot in the NFC, I see our defenses are good. They're young, they're aggressive, they're fast, and we're going to give a lot of problems to all our opponents that we play respectively this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Let me throw in one thing real quick. I know we're probably going to go a different direction anyway. With Washington, the surprise early in OTAs and training camp is that the offense is actually standing out in regard to talent, right? Like everyone kind of thinks, oh, it's going to be Washington's defense is going to carry the load. We'll see what happens, right? Like I think our defensive line is going to be pretty legit. We have that front four, plus we added a second-round pick, but our linebackers and our defensive backs are kind of suspect right now, so I'm kind of worried about them big picture-wise. But I think my boy Adam's in the chat. Montez Sweat's going to have a great year, and Chase Young's going to have a pretty solid year. But I think that our offense is going to come together. Things are kind of looking optimistic. They're talking about our wide receivers, and I think we're probably going to talk about that in a minute. So, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, when I look at this division, I see an easy division win for the Eagles. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do think that this is from top to bottom. I think everybody got a little bit better. Did the Cowboys necessarily on paper get a better player? Did they go out there and get, the top name? No, but I think that you can make the argument that having a Trayvon Diggs now in another year that you're thinking he can, kind of blow up and explode. You're giving CD a little bit more arm space. You're giving, Micah Parsons a year or two more of a defined role. So you can make the argument that they're just getting better with the experience. You look at the Giants, all the players that they've added, like we said before, the coaching staff moves that they made, they got better. Carson Wentz is probably the best quarterback that Washington has had. And a couple names, right? And a couple different names. So it's been a while.
A bunch of names, been a minute.
But yeah, so I think you can make the argument that everybody got better. Eagles obviously added a lot of talent to this team. So I think that we should be a tough out at the very least. I think that we should go out there and really, fight to be one of those top divisions, not in just the NFC, but I think in the whole league. I think any team that goes against us, whether it be in the playoffs or whether it be when we're, doing our conference things or whatever, just beware, because we're not built, like you said, where the defenses are crazy and everything, but like our teams are teams that have guys that want to air it out. Like if you look at, what Nick Sirianni is, he really wants to throw the ball. You see that early on in, his tenure, he wanted to do that. So if Jalen Hurts is able to make that step, we're going to be a team that's putting the air, the ball in the air. We're going to get AJ Brown the ball a lot. You look at a Carson Wentz, the same is going to be said, especially about a Jahan Dotson and stuff like that. You look at the Giants, they want to throw the ball, especially what you're hearing about Daniel Jones, that he was a good thrower of the ball. And then obviously we know what Dak Prescott and them boys want to do. So I go ahead.
Joe, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I keep seeing in the chat, people keep saying the Washington offensive line's trash. That's totally misinformed, dude. They were the 6th best offensive line in the NFL last year. I don't know what's going on with all that. They had a really good pass blocking offensive line and a really good running block offensive line too. So they actually were pretty legit. We lost, what's his name? Brennan Sheriff, but Brennan Sheriff's always injured anyway. And we added Andrew Norwell and Trey Turner, both like Pro Bowl, All-Pro guards. I mean, they're a little bit older now, but they're going to be perfectly fine. And we actually have a really good coach in John Mascow. So our offensive line is not anything to be concerned about. We're like, trash is far from where Washington's at. So it's kind of surprising to me. People keep saying that, but it's all good.
Yeah, people. Well,
I let George jumping in here and defending his team like that, coming with stats.
That's what you got to do.
He like,
I'm just talking.
you
talking facts, man. Yeah, come
all
on,
this stuff. He said, man, y'all just listening to what everybody else saying out in them streets, man. Y'all just listen to the ESPNs. You need to really listen to us. That's why we have these shows like this, because some people who don't be informed on the opposite team and they just listen to what the media says will jump in there and say, oh, they're terrible. But when you listen to the content creators like us who are delved in and do this every single day and have the passion for it, we can tell you, now, see, you're hearing other people, because that's not what it says and that's not what it's really seeing right here. So I really appreciate George like that.
Oh, yeah. And that makes me want to kind of piggyback off that, because now that you say that, I want to ask the rest of you guys, what is something that you guys have been hearing or maybe seeing right now in the chat that you're like, where are they getting this from? Are there any storylines that you're hearing from opposite ends that you're like, where are these guys getting from, that you kind of want to clear the table about your team?
If you don't mind me going first, so then
after you, man. Go ahead.
I want to say I've been reading on the side, and I see that stuff like, hey, first of all, if you're asking who's playing center for the Giants, then you're probably not following the Giants. So your opinion to me is really not that important to me. You understand what I'm saying? If you're telling me like, oh man, Washington's O-line sucks, then that means you don't know what you're talking about. So to me, your opinion doesn't really mean anything to me. You know what's important to me? Yes. Do I listen to analysts? I do. I would be ignorant not to. They get paid to do their job. But you know what I love, and this is what I consider the greatest thing. When I can talk to people like you three that I know live and breathe this. I know we are not just guys that are just, bohum, don't really care. How many times I meet guys and they got a Giants jersey or they got a Knicks jersey or a Yankee jersey, and I'm like, great job, guys. And they're like, oh, man, I'm only wearing it for the color. I don't really know nothing about the team. You know how disappointing that is to me? That people wear colors and they do all this. When you have people like all three of you guys plus myself that I know wake up every day. We want to look at the stats. We want to know the transactions. We talk about it. We read about it. We dedicate our lives to this. Yeah, we're not getting paid for this, but that makes it even better because we're doing it because we love it. Those are the opinions that matters to me. When you guys tell me, hey, listen, this is how I feel about the Giants. This is how I feel about this. I take it, but not with the grain of salt. I take it and I go, let me listen to what they're trying to say. Maybe I'm missing something, okay? Because I might learn something, right? Because you're a true fan like I am. Now, when you have somebody that's talking like, hey, Washington's line sucks, and doesn't really know what they're talking about, you think I worry about those guys? That means you're not watching. That means you guys don't know what all four of us know because you're not looking at who's rehabbing, who's wearing a red jersey. You don't know any of that stuff. A lot of these people are just trollers, and they're just putting on jerseys for colors, man. We're not those guys. We bleed our teams. That's all I'm going to say.
And I don't know why people would put on Giants jerseys nowadays. Anyways, I mean, it's been rough. It's been rough.
That dirty green, yeah. Why would
we looking at not the word mark? The word mark you can hate on. I can understand that. I'll say this about my team. I'll say this about the Eagles. I don't think that Jalen Hurts is under the pressure that a lot of people outside of Philadelphia think he is. I don't think that, our success, while it does to a certain degree, obviously, he can't be terrible and go out there and be absolute garbage. But I think that we can be a successful team, and I think we proved it last year, even if he's just average, even if he's just that guy that can manage the game. So I don't think that the front, and that might even be a little bit of a hot take to my Eagles, people watching, I don't think that it's like a make or break in the sense of he has to go out there and be this, top 5 quarterback. I think it's just don't be terrible. Don't be bad. Can you lead this offense on and off the field? Because both of that matters. So that's really what I'll say about the Eagles. I just don't think that Jalen Hurts has, the amount of pressure that a lot of people I think are putting on him outside of Philadelphia.
If you don't mind me saying, you just said something that made sense, which is true. Basically, Jalen Hurts just has to have a mistake-free year, and he's considered having a good year, right? That's
basically, yeah.
All right, well, it's his thing. To me, it's the same thing about Daniel Jones and the same thing about Carson. That's why I say it's
Dak. It's true with Carson too.
That's what I'm saying.
It is kind of true with Carson too. If Carson's like at that point that like, will he become a starter?
But we talking about now. Come on now, fellas. We talking now. We keeping quarterbacks of the future. You saying he may not have that pressure, like you say. Okay, I hear what you're saying about Hurts. He still got pressure because your team and your franchise still moved around your team, draft picks possibly for next year for a potential quarterback. And you're saying if Hurts, well, as long as he don't mess up. We know, Joe. Come on now.
No, I
he
really
got
don't.
some pressure. He got pressure to make it happen. And then when we talking about Carson Wentz got some pressure. He gotta let everybody know that he is the guy. They're gonna say, we're looking at you this year, and if we know what you are, Carson, but if you don't do it, then we're gonna move on from you, bro. And Daniel Jones got the same daggone thing. That's why I agree with Ruben when he was talking about all three of those quarterbacks have a stake. They got to show what it is.
They do, 100%.
Because Daniel Jones can't have no regular kind of year. It's over.
Yeah, let me jump in on this. So for me, I think the narrative that like Washington's in turmoil, I think that's kind of overblown. Like everyone keeps hearing the negative headlines about like Dan Snyder and all the sexual harassment and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's true. I think, I'll openly say people want Dan Snyder removed as the owner, but that's more of like the business side of the team. Like in regard to actually players on the field, I think we do have some like good players, and Ron Rivera has them coaching in the right direction. And that's kind of what I was trying to tell you. We need that coach to like just drown out the noise and just play football. We have a whole bunch of Alabama Crimson Tide players. It's like we eat, sleep, and we breathe football. We don't really care about all this outside noise. So I do think the team is in the right direction. And I think the team's going to be better. The team's in a better shape than what people think nationally, right? That's what I think, honestly. In regard to Carson Wentz, I do like his contract. I think that you're right. He has a big year ahead of him. Like it's probably bigger than anybody. And it's like him and Daniel Jones, and all three, Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts, and Carson Wentz. This is the crossroads for them. More so Carson Wentz than probably the other two. But if Carson Wentz has a regress year, a bad year, a flame out year, he's going to be relegated to a career backup. I think for the rest of the rest of his career. The one nice thing about it, though, like, I'm a nerd, and we talk about eat, sleeping, and breathing this, right? His contract is set up nicely for us, right? We have him for 3 years. All of his guaranteed money is already paid off. So he's going to get paid $27 million and $26 million the next 2 years after the season. So there's nothing guaranteed. They can cut him, and that money would just drop off the salary cap, and we'd have a complete wide open space in regard to that. They could pay him 27, 28, which is actually, if he actually plays like a top 15 quarterback, that's kind of like peanuts compared to like 40 million to Dak Prescott, and all these other guys are getting paid 40, 45 now. So 27 isn't that bad for a starting quarterback. But the best part that people are even like you have to be deep in the Commanders' weeds to know all this is, Terry McLaurin is a free agent. People want to re-sign him in DC. Deron Payne is definitely up in regard to being a contract as well as a fifth-year player. He's on a fifth-year option now. They can restructure his contract and lengthen it if he proves to be that guy, and actually have enough to pay for Terry McLaurin and Deron Payne if they want to. So the flexibility with the salary cap and with Carson Wentz is actually pretty ideal for us. So we paid a pretty big price to get him onto the team, but I like the flexibility that they offer. I think it was a good downfield vision for him. So we'll see how that all plays out.
Yeah, I can't wait to play Carson Wentz. I think all the Eagles fans feel the same way. Those are going to be
That's gonna
some
be
of the
Yeah,
most
crazy.
that
great
Monday Night
games.
Football game's gonna be wild in
That's gonna
Philadelphia.
be
It's gonna be crazy.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's gonna be
he's
crazy.
gonna choke that game. I'm not gonna lie, he's gonna choke that game. Yeah,
He's not going to play that game. I can almost guarantee.
yeah.
I can almost guarantee he's not coming to
He's gonna have a
Philly. We'll
cough
see
that
what
game.
happens.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see
We'll
what
see.
happens.
It's gonna be very interesting. Those games right there are gonna be very interesting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
all these games have so many storylines behind them, and I want to. We've been going for about 50 minutes. We've kept it very civil. There's about 100 people in the chats between all the groups, so definitely be sure to hit the like, hit the subscribe wherever you are. If you're on my channel, look in the description and go check out Big Game James. Subscribe to him. Go check out George Carmy. Subscribe to him. And same thing with me. If you're on Big Game James channel or George Carmy's, check in the link and you'll see the link to all of us. So show the love, spread the love. These are guys, and Ruben is on Philly the podcast. I wasn't just forgetting about his show. He gives us the insight for the Giants. So definitely show the love, spread the love. But we're gonna take off the kid gloves now. All right. I want everybody to give me and give everybody in the chat and chat as well. I want to see your roadmap. I want your roadmap to the playoffs. How, and we're gonna start with you, James. How do the Dallas Cowboys, I couldn't even think of your name. How do the Dallas Cowboys make the playoffs, be a better team than last year, win a couple games? Like how are they a Super Bowl team? What do they have to do this year in your eyes, and how close are they in your eyes?
I mean, if they were to be a Super Bowl team, in my opinion, Dak's going to have to play. Take another step. My opinion. I was listening to you where you were talking about how Dak needs to be able to anticipate the throws. He needs to continue to grow in that area, and this is an area that's got to happen. Kellen Moore's got to play ridiculous. If we're talking about the Cowboys going into a
So
deep
Roger.
playoff run, you got to take another step because a lot of people figured out your offense. So this offense has to really take another step. Dak Prescott has to have an out of his mind type year, as far as the accuracy. CeeDee Lamb, I feel like Tony Pollard, Zeke Elliott, those guys, especially Tony Pollard, he has to have a career type year, in my opinion. So really, the offense is going to have to be crazy. But I feel like if Dallas is really going to be that team, the defense, Dan Quinn has really put his mark on Dallas. A lot of people really love him in the community. He's really made his mark as far as putting guys in the right position. We got another good draft crop coming up. And I feel like the defense, in my opinion, offense got to play really crazy. Dak does. But the Micah Parsons, the DeMarcus Lawrences of the world have to really take another step, especially Micah Parsons. I feel like he's going to have a really kind of crazy year. And if Dallas really wants to go deep in the playoffs, y'all, it has to be a Dak Prescott crazy year, and Micah Parsons has to have a dominant, like MVP type season.
Ain't gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen.
Yeah. No, I'm going to tell you right now, Micah Parsons have an MVP defensive type season this year. It is definitely legit for it to happen. I don't know about
Yeah.
you guys, but what y'all saw last year, and if he continues, what I feel, this is his second year. He didn't really even know what he was doing, and y'all saw that. He's going to know what he's doing. He's going to understand offenses and what they're going to try to do to him. Bro, Micah Parsons is going to be phenomenal this year. You'll see.
Yeah, I like Micah Parsons. It sucks having it. That's why I didn't really want to bring up Jahan Dotson, but I'm sure that George is going to bring him up. And when I ask him his path to being great, and I'm going to have to hear this because it hurts my heart. I always have to do. I had to do it with the Giants with Saquon Barkley. I had to sit here and talk about a Penn State great. You know what I'm saying? I had to do it with Micah Parsons with the Cowboys. Talk about a Penn State great. I love Jahan Dotson. I will say that. I know we didn't, have a full section about him, but I do love what Jahan Dotson brings to your team, especially in the new NFL where they're okay with a 3-4 yard catch to turn into a 90-yard. They're not trying to air it out and force things. He's going to get the ball in many different ways, I'm sure. But George, talk to me. How are you thinking Washington becomes the team that Washington wants them to become? A great team, possibly a Super Bowl team, and how close do you think they are?
All right, so I want to talk about schedule first. I'll talk about team construction second, right? So Washington has the 31st weakest schedule, like the softest schedule in the entire league. I hope people know that off the break, right? So they do have a weak schedule. They start off with the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1, Detroit Lions week 2. They go to the Eagles week 3, which will be a pretty big game. Then the middle of the season gets pretty tight. They have like the Vikings, the Colts, the Packers all back to back. It's pretty solid over there. So in order for Washington to be they're kind of fragile. I'm not gonna lie. If they start off 0-3 and things aren't looking too good, the season could unravel, right? But if they start off on the right foot and have those first couple wins, if they start off 3-0, like beating the Jaguars, beating the Lions, just like we should be favored in those games, then knocking off the Eagles, and that's gonna be looking pretty solid going into week 4 against the Cowboys. So that'll be pretty impressive to kind of start off strong and then finish strong. In regard to like the actual team construction, it's going to be our offense. Like that's what I keep telling everybody. Like nationally, people keep looking at Washington's defense. Like, oh, the first round picks are there. They're going to dominate there. They're going to be and so on and so forth. Like if you actually follow the Washington Commanders last year, the defense was trash last year. They were 25th in the league and they weren't very good. That was because Chase Young was gone after week 80 towards ACL. Montez Sweat lost a couple games because he broke his jaw, and then his brother unfortunately he passed away, and he basically was out for the rest of the season too. So if you lose your best edge rushers, you lose your quarterback week 1, you're going to get banged up and you're going to be at a deficit. And I think people kind of sleep on that, and we still won 7 games without all that happening. So what I think with Washington, the way it's going to work is Carson Wentz is going to be that key, has to be that key. If he isn't that key, then Washington's going to be regrouping and they're going to probably pick high or maybe turn the keys over to Sam Howell basically at the end of the season. We'll kind of see how that goes down. But basically, like the winning formula for Washington next year was Carson Wentz provides 27-7 again, right? He doesn't have to be a world beater, doesn't have to be a 5,000-yard quarterback, anything crazy. Give me 3,500, 3,800 yards, something solid, right? Give me 25-10. Give me a pretty good ratio of touchdowns and interceptions. Just don't be an idiot. Don't turn the ball over, right? We have the weapons. Terry McLaurin is legit. People keep sleeping on him. Terry McLaurin's legit. Curtis Samuel is a good little tool that we can use in Scott Turner's offense. Jahan Dotson, he's a beast, man. He's coming up from like sleeper pick for all y'all in fantasy. Pick up Jahan Dotson late, man. He's eating up in training camp. They're talking like 40, 50 catches from him, 600-700 yards for him, 5 or 6 touchdowns. It's not going to be Justin Jefferson, but he's going to be an early contributor for Washington next year. Yeah. I think the offense is going to be balanced too. Antonio Gibson's a pretty solid running back, but in the 3rd round, we drafted Brian Robinson from Alabama, their lead back. He had 14 touchdowns last year, 1,400 yards. I think Washington's going to try to pound the ball between Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson, and J.D. McKissick as more of a scat back, 3rd down back. So their offense is going to lead the way. In order for Washington to be successful, their offense is going to lead the way. Chase Young and Montez Sweat's going to have our bounce back year because combined, I think they had 6 sacks, which is, these guys should be double-digit sacks on their own right? So if they're providing 10 sacks apiece, their offense is actually doing pretty well. Then I see that's still going to be the key for Washington. It's going to be the expected stars to finally perform. And if they do, things will look pretty good. If they don't, then Washington's going to be a lot of moving parts next year, like maybe some coaches being moved too. So what's up with that? Not Rivera, but like maybe coordinators, I think.
Okay.
Del Rio.
I was about to say, Ronnie Riverboat, come on down to Philly, bro. I love Ron.
Yeah.
I love Ron.
Yeah.
But hey, I know Ruben is probably chomping at the bit right now. He's right. He has the hat off. He's ready. So how do the Giants, man? How are you seeing the Giants becoming? Stop. It's been a rough couple years, cuz I love you. I love you, right? It's we family. And I love you to death, but you picked a bad team for this decade. So how do you think you guys get out of that, just slump that you guys have been in? How do you guys go back to the promised land, win another Super Bowl?
Well, let me start off by saying we're the only team in this division that's won in every decade in the last 50 years. Right? So we'll just leave it there when it comes to the decade scenario. However, when it comes to the team, I'm not ignorant. I do watch my team. I read about my team all day and all night. If I'm not on Bleacher Report, I'm on every site there is, just so I can get as much information, as I can, because I just can't get enough information regarding my team. And I'm like that about my Knicks, and I'm not like that about my Yankees, except the Giants I love more than any team, even more than the Yankees and the Knicks. But I digress. I guess what I can say to you is this. To me, we need 3 important things to happen. If we can get these 3 important things to happen for the New York Giants, I think this will change our entire season. It'll change our team, and it'll change momentum, and we can stop hearing all this about it's Dallas's year again or it's Philly's year again. Okay. One, we cannot start off by going 0-4 or 0-5. All right. Let alone 0-2. I don't even want to see 0-2. Okay. But in the past 5 seasons, we've had too many 0-4, 0-5s. So the first thing we have to do, if we stand any chance of winning, is to not start off going 0-5. Okay. That's one. Two, I believe it turns into 3 different parts, but I'll make it short. The offensive line. If this offensive line finally holds up, okay, that means we can actually finally see if Daniel Jones can really be a really starting NFL QB, okay? On top of that, if we can get the offensive line to play better, we can actually see a Barkley that's closer to the Barkley that we know from 2 years ago. So to me, the second thing is the offensive line. So we start off not going 0-5. That's important. And then we start off with the offensive line. If the offensive line does its job and plays as talented as they look on paper, then Daniel Jones can finally be Daniel, and we'll finally know. Okay? No more ifs, ands, or buts. And we'll finally see Barkley, who seems to be healthy, look like himself because he'll finally have some lanes to run through. So the second one was the offensive line. And the third, to me, if this happens, we're a totally different team. Winky, our defensive coordinator, has been with the Baltimore Ravens for like 12 seasons, okay? And for the 7 or 8 that he's been the defensive coordinator, he's led the league in blitzes. One season, he averaged 41% of his defensive calls were blitzes. After that, everything else has been 37, 38, 42%. Still number 1 or number 2 in the league every single season, including last season when the Baltimore Ravens had a bad secondary. Their secondary was injured, and Baltimore was still number 1 in defensive blitzer calls. Okay, so all I'm saying to you is if Winky can come in here and take this basic conservative approach that Graham's had the past couple of years and flip it 180, and we're now the ones dictating what's going to happen on every down, rather than us sitting there going, what's Dallas going to throw at us? What is Jalen Hurts going to throw at us? No, you're talking about a defensive coordinator that dictates. He wants us to tell you what you guys are going to do. He's going to tell you what we're going to try to take away. So long story short, 1, don't start 0-5. I wouldn't even start 0-2. All right? 2, the offensive line plays better. That automatically gives us a chance to know whether Barkley's really back and if Daniel Jones is the future. And 3, last but not least, if our defensive coordinator does what his history shows us, if he can do that with the Giants, then I'm sorry, guys. This might not be your year in our division. That's all.
I like that. So the way to not lose is to win. I like that. If you don't lose your first 4 games, you'll probably win them. Maybe you'll tie them if Donovan McNabb, makes a return.
For years, we went like 0-8 for like 6 seasons against the Cowboys. Same thing with the Eagles, okay? We had a bad 10 years going against the Eagles and the Cowboys. Some of it is injuries. Some of it is our play calls. Some of it is we just didn't have the talent. All I'm saying to you, this is the first time I think we're starting to have some talent. We're starting to have them in key positions like offensive line where it's vital. And now we bring in a defensive coordinator that will now change how the game is being played. It's about time because Dallas's offense has been great against us. So is the Eagles. Okay. Yeah. And all I'm saying to you is if Winky comes in and changes that, that means the whole division changes. Because we're not going to go 0-2 against Dallas. We're not going to go 0-2 against the Eagles.
Yes, you are. You're going 0-2 against
we didn't go 0-2 against you the last 2 years, and we stunk.
Yeah. Okay, you're going 0-2.
They almost swept us. If I'm keeping it a stack, the Giants gave us a fit this year,
and we were bad.
Didn't y'all sweep us? Y'all did sweep us this year. Or was that last year?
We swept you, and we finally swept you, but we finally beat Philly, which we hadn't been able to do. No, I'm sorry, we finally beat Dallas, which we hadn't been able to do for like 7-8 seasons still.
Y'all were trash.
You beat us last year, right?
Yep.
I think
what game did you beat us?
I believe it was the first game of the season, and if I'm correct, it was the first time we
last
beat you
year
guys.
when Daniel Jones got hurt, y'all lost that game.
No, Daniel Jones got hurt the second game. Daniel Jones played 3/4 of the season. He was only out the last 6 games.
But we played last
I
year
lost to
because
Daniel Jones.
we
man,
played.
for real? We got to talk
No,
about
we didn't
that.
lose no.
We got to talk
We
about
didn't
that,
lose no
James.
Daniel. We didn't lose to
What's
no
going on with
Giants
that?
last year, dog. We swept the Giants.
Yeah, I think the
last year. We didn't
Cowboys
lose no
weren't
Giants
y'all
in Dallas.
undefeated in the division last
Yeah, I
year?
think I
Yes,
was
we
undefeated in
only
the
said,
division.
Yeah, you were
yeah,
6-0
we
in the
didn't
division
lose to no
last year.
daggone Giants. I'm like, hold up, we didn't lose
It was
no
a pickup
daggone
game.
Giants.
How
No
about
Daniel
this?
Jones.
How about this? I could be-
Y'all got us the year before. Y'all, we lost to y'all.
That's
right.
what
Yeah,
we
yeah,
finally broke it.
Yeah,
Broke
y'all
Yeah, the
lost.
Cowboys
before.
won.
That was at
James was
Right,
mad
yeah,
about
right.
that.
I'm like, hold
You're
on.
right.
I'm like, hold on. I'm like, wait. Let's stop.
No, you got it there. Reminded me it was the year before, but the point is we stopped the undefeated streak that you guys had on us for 6 seasons. And the same thing with Philly. Both of you guys were killing us for 6, 7 seasons in a row, where we would go 0-2 against Dallas and we would go 0-2 against the Eagles every season.
Facts.
Y'all
And
Yeah,
that
I
was like
appreciate
that
those
for
days.
6
They were
seasons.
beautiful. Yeah, JJ the Mind wanted to.
Hey,
JJ the Mind wanted to remind you that. Y'all
yeah,
lost both to Dallas.
Yeah.
It was a mistake.
Thanks
I
for
don't
the
think it was
help.
lying. I don't think he was lying.
Hey,
No,
He's
no,
reputable.
it
like
was
I
the year
said,
before.
the Giants, I ain't mad at them Giants, but y'all definitely not beating us this year.
I was about to say we're gonna have to talk about
I
that,
gotta be
James. If
honest
y'all
with
lost
Giants
to
not
Daniel
beating
Jones
us.
last year. We was gonna have to talk about
down.
that. No, but I'll say
Come on.
this. Look, to answer my own question, the Philadelphia Eagles. It comes down to this. It comes down to. Let me see. Hold on. Let me. This is James' favorite shirt right here. It comes down to that. It comes down to Jalen Hurts. It comes down to Hurts just doing his job along with everybody else doing their job. I think on paper we are a lot better than we were last year. We asked a lot of players to do things that weren't in their resume. And look, I think that this is the year. I like what Nick Sirianni
I'm sure
is.
you do think it's the year. This is the year the Cowboys have back-to-back NFC East champions since 20 years. This is the year it happens. This is the year
Even
it
if
happens. I'm sorry to tell you
first
this,
round.
Ruben. I'm sorry to tell you this, George. I feel you. Trust me. I won't run away from that. If you go to my podcast, I don't run away from that. But I am going to say we're going to be back-to-back NFC East champions. What happens in the playoffs, I hope is good. But yeah, we've been failures. We've been chokers. I don't run away from that. And Mike McCarthy has to show, or he's going to be out of here. So we do. But if we talking about the NFC East, Dak Prescott to me is still the key. And if they're and that's why we're going to still be the champions. I'm sorry to tell you that, Ruben.
I'll say this. The
and
Eagles,
Joe,
the
you have
Eagles
those aspirations, Joe.
The Eagles have the best chance of winning this division.
Jalen Hurts ain't doing it. So you said
if
throw the gloves off. Jalen Hurts ain't doing it.
But Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do it. Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do it. He ran away. He said, "You know what?
I made Ruben get out of here.
I'm out."
He ran away.
I made Ruben get on out of here.
Hold on. I lost it. I hit the button. I freaked out. You are totally underestimating. Hold on.
I don't need to underestimate. I'm trying to tell you. And then when I'm talking to George, the Washington Commanders may have a chance because I say Carson Wentz may give you some victories. He may give you some victories, but you still the Commanders, big dog. You still the Commanders, and we own them Commanders. So I'm trying to tell you right now, we throwing the gloves off. Let's throw the gloves off.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We threw these kid gloves off. The Eagles are that team right now.
If we're keeping it a buck right now, right? I gotta give it up to the Cowboys. The Cowboys beat our ass last year, so I got to tip the cap to them. Until we beat them, I can't run my mouth. I'm keeping it 100%.
Are we talking about regular season?
The Giants.
That's my thing, though, Rube.
We swept the Giants last.
That's my thing, Ruben. Ruben just said something.
It's the round table. Y'all got smacked last year.
Philadelphia. I ain't scared of Philadelphia.
Bro, Ruben just said something very important. He said, "Are we talking about regular season?"
Right.
Hold on.
We were up both games. with Garrett Gilbert as one of our quarterbacks in
Thank
one of the
you.
games. We have a
Joe ain't even
14
scared of
nothing.
you, Philly.
Y'all beat you guys 9 and
Joe
8.
ain't even
Where,
scared.
Y'all
where,
are
where,
9
where were
and
you
8.
in the playoffs? Where were you in the playoffs,
Dude,
George?
y'all-
I saw a game live. Were you watching your team
Y'all
play in the playoffs?
34 nothing in the playoffs in the first game, dog. 34.
But,
You weren't
but
even
what did you lose by? What was
Huh?
your score?
Dude, get out of
What was
here.
the score
We
of your
played the
game?
Bucks in 2020. We hung with them a little bit though.
Hey,
I feel you. I got you.
sorry to
Look,
jump
I
in.
think the Eagles did all that with and I'm going to say this as a hater, right? I'm going to play devil's advocate. The Eagles went to the playoffs with a bad quarterback, with basically wasting half being who they supposed to be. If they come into this year and they say we're going to run this ball, Jalen Hurts, you just got to make the plays when they need to be made. If you look at San Francisco, that's basically what they did with Jimmy G. I'll take Jalen Hurts, and I know you would as well. Big game, James, because we did our top 32. I'm taking a Jalen Hurts over a Jimmy G. So I think we can have a 49ers type season as the floor. And if I'm not mistaken,
There's a floor.
the San Francisco 49ers
NFC
beat a
championship.
team, somebody out, you know there. So anyways,
Get out of here with that, man. Come on, man.
I think we could do it. I think we can if we get into the playoffs, I feel way better about us winning a game because it won't all be on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was force feeding guys like Jalen Reagor last year. Quez Watkins is now a number 3. He was our de facto number 2. Dallas Goedert was on and off, hurt most of the season. Had that, kind of whatever it was with Zach Ertz early on in the year. There was so much going on in Philadelphia. There's a lot of reason and a lot of, optimism in Philadelphia, and there should be. There's a lot of reason to be excited about this team. So now that the kid gloves are off, the Eagles taking some haymakers this year. I'm just saying the Eagles are throwing some haymakers.
You're going to get some haymakers because, like I said, you be talking all that trash, but you got a 3-game losing streak against them Cowboys. See, when I listen to all these Philly talk,
Hold on.
I listen to all that Philly talk and all that. I don't want to hear that, dog. We own y'all right.
Like chalkboard.
That's what it is.
Listening to James is like listening to somebody scrape their nails on a chalkboard.
Cut it out. Cut it out, Ruben. You know
Come
we
on,
own
Jay.
y'all. We don't
Are
even
you
talk.
kidding me?
Now I gave you props, Ruben, because if you go to
Right,
my Twitter,
right.
Hold on. How about this? Y'all have not won. Hold on. Y'all have not won since Coolio's #1 hit, Fantastic Voyage. Okay.
Come on
I
now.
hear every season.
That's a long time ago.
I hear every season how it's your season. I'm tired of hearing that. The whole NFL is tired of hearing that. And not only that, you call yourself the self-proclaimed America's team, where everybody knows it's the Giants that's America's team.
You know that's a
We're red,
daggone
white,
lie.
and blue, baby.
You know that's a daggone lie.
You had me until you started saying that.
Right
I was with you, Ruben, and then you said
Ruben,
that, and it's like,
hold on. You guys are not giving. How about this,
y'all
James?
And you know
after 9/11,
I gave y'all
Whitney Houston, greatest Super Bowl song ever. Giant Super Bowl, okay?
Oh, jeez. Going this route?
Significant.
All right,
because it's red, white, and blue, bro.
Sound like some violins now, dog.
Ain't
Ain't nobody ever even talk about
violins.
Y'all got at least 3 years. Let's be real honest.
1995, Coolio.
1995. Years. You got at least 3 years from Giant Nation to even be talked about, big dog.
That wasn't
Let's
even
keep it
Blu-ray.
all the way real. You know.
Look, I think it's fun. I love that.
You are delusional about Daniel Jones.
What are you talking about?
Guys
haven't won since guys use beeper.
You're wasting another year with him. So that's 1 year being wasted, and then you're gonna have at least 2 more trying to get it back together, Ruben.
But James,
be honest with yourself.
You have
Michael Jordan, be honest. Get some help. You feel me?
That's the best GIF ever, man. I agree with you right there.
You're so emotional. You're making me drop the phone and everything. That's how
I'm through that phone, man.
Them darts is getting you. And he's like,
but you're not even
Bill.
Here's the thing. You can shoot all of that, but here's the thing. When you talk about wasted, was wasted talent is to have all the talent that the Dallas Cowboys have had the past 7 seasons and haven't won a damn thing. Okay,
I agree.
that's
But that
wasted.
doesn't. But we,
If I can share,
but
I
we
can
talking
drop this.
about. You right. We talking about that. But
Mic
when we
drop.
talking about the NFC East. When we talking about the NFC East, because we talking about NFC East round table. So that's where I got to stay in the round table realms. I'm not talking about playoffs because I agree. But right now, you Giants been getting smacked. You got that lucky victory in 2020 when our team was in shambles. We had a coordinator for 1 year who had one of the worst defenses ever. You understand that? Worst defenses ever. So
Hold
we
on,
can't, and that was so. But hold up, and we
all right, go ahead.
split with y'all. But if we talking about going into this year, you guys are like 1-3 against us. We talking about the Commanders. We've been beating up on the Commanders. We talk about the Eagles, beat up on the Eagles. So a lot of y'all sound good, but when we go to the facts and the stats of it, we are owning it.
Do I got to buzz in? Can I buzz in?
Go ahead, Rube. Go ahead, Rube.
James, I respect you very much. All right, and I can listen to you all day. Even about Dallas, because you know what you're talking about, okay? But here's the truth, okay? And that's all I'm going to say to you. Here's the truth. The Giants won in 1986. The Giants won in 1990. The Giants won in 2007. The Giants won in 2011, right? You guys haven't won since the beepers were in use, okay? NYPD Blue was the number one show on TV. Hold on. Let you talk. I'll let you talk, James.
Okay.
NYPD Blue was the number one show on TV. Okay. All I'm trying to say to you is I hear your excitement and I hear the talk, but you know what you sound like? Every other Dallas Cowboy fan the past 30 seasons. Okay.
Not at all.
All I'm saying to you is you guys, this is where I have the problem with Dallas fans. Dallas fans should know that they're joke now. You got guys making fun of them on ESPN every season on how they play in the playoffs if they even make it. Okay.
No, we make the playoffs.
You got Stephen A. Smith. You got Stephen A. Smith talking about how you guys are the biggest.
He don't count.
So you're not even letting me finish. Come on, James. I'll let you go, baby.
Okay. Right. All right. That's why you gotta take the. That's why you gotta take the gloves.
Doesn't that tell you something?
Yeah, that's hype right there. That's why you gotta take the kid gloves off sometimes. I know that's what everybody wants to see in the chat. People see us being all nice to each other and be like, "Where's that fire?" Trust me. Throw us all in a bar together.
Is this the Cowboy season?
But either way, so listen, I'm gonna say this, and I want to wrap a bow on this. We're at already an hour and 15 minutes, 100 plus people in the chat. Be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe, join the family for all of us. We got a bunch of different channels that we're killing it. I want to extend the olive branch before we do close this out to everybody. You know, James, Ruben, and George. If there's anything from your end, because I know I kind of, take over and host these things. If there's anything you want to ask a different team, you know what I'm saying? This will be a good time to kind of close it out. Do that. Like we'll start with you, George, since we kind of been having you go last. Is there anything you want to ask the Cowboys, Eagles, or Giants for their perspective?
That's a good question. Let me throw it to James real quick, right? So, James, last year, the Cowboys kind of were poised to make a big run in the playoffs, right? What makes you think that this year is going to be different than last year? Because I feel like last year, that was when the window was wide open. I feel like it's kind of closing a little bit. What do you think changed for you guys this year?
I'll be honest with you. That's why I was laughing with Ruben going in on me, because I agree. I feel like we have been classic underachievers. I don't run away from that. I don't scare away from that. You go to my channel and you will see. I will come at you and say we're classic underachievers. So right now it's got to be to me a Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy thing. They have to figure it out. They have to get together and figure this out. Year in and year out, we have one of the top offenses not just in the NFC, in the NFL. And still in big games, we come up short when we need it to be. When this offense needs to be dynamic and explosive, we play teams and we cower down. So that's me. For when I'm looking at this year, it has to be a Kellen Moore taking another step, a Mike McCarthy taking more authority over this offense. If it gets down and Kellen Moore is not doing it, then the coach needs to step in and be more assertive in the game planning at that time. So I feel like that's where it is. Do I feel like the window closed from last year? Yes, because you lost parts. But if the window were to open, then those two guys really need to get together as one mind and one accord and take the next step.
Is Kellen Moore the coach in waiting in Dallas?
I said that in the very beginning when he first got hired because I felt like they were going to do him like they did Jason Garrett, kind of give him the keys. If you saw how Jason Garrett got brought in from the Miami Dolphins as a quarterback's coach, they did the same thing with Kellen Moore, and they groomed him the same way they did Jason Garrett, kind of giving him spoon-fed. I feel like what halted that was this offense, people calling him out, especially NFL people like a Kurt Warner, things of that nature. And also Dan Quinn stepping his game up and giving, because he's been a head coach in the NFL and he took over our defense the way it did. So that to me kind of halted the Kellen Moore thing and saying it could go to Dan Quinn. But we also got to remember, fellas, Sean Payton is in the wings no matter what anybody tells me. That Sean Payton has been with the Cowboys. There's still that infinity from Jerry Jones right there. And I feel like that's the guy that could be the next guy if it all fails with Mike McCarthy this year. So I don't think it would be a Kellen Moore. It could be, but the way Jerry Jones being 80 years old and Sean Payton being in the wings, I would feel like he would go after something like that, saying, I don't have time to wait anymore. I'm going after Sean Payton. I'm putting all in because this might be my last chance.
Makes sense.
That's going to be interesting to see. I think Sean Payton's probably the one domino that we don't want to see fall to Dallas. I think all NFC East people can say that. Ruben, I want you to take it, and then James, I want you to take the last if you have a question for any of these guys. Okay. And then we'll close this out. But Ruben, if you have a question for any of the teams in the NFC East, go ahead and shoot it out.
I'm gonna say I have two questions, but I'll make it real quick. Question one is, just tell me one thing, James. Is this your year?
I can't say that. Honestly, I don't feel like right now, if I'm looking from the outside in, no, when I'm looking at the dynamic of my team, Super Bowl year, I don't feel like it's a Super Bowl year. No, I feel like those guys have to prove something, especially Mike McCarthy, year 3. So no, I don't feel like it is a Super Bowl year for us. No, I don't.
Yeah, I think to me the Amari Cooper and the Randy Gregory losses are going to be significant. I think that's being underestimated. But my other question, which if I had two, if I could, is Joe. Honestly, do you really believe that Hurts is the quarterback of the future for the Eagles? Like, do you really take him off your team for a moment, put him on anybody else's team? Yes, he could run fast. Yes, he's got the running game. You know, and he's a dangerous weapon. But do you believe he can stay healthy and actually make it through the full season and put up great numbers without making as many mistakes? Do you really believe that?
I mean, that's like, two different questions. I think that he could be the future of this team, but I think that will he put up great numbers? I don't know if he's ever going to be that quarterback. It really depends on what the Eagle. And I said this before that I don't think he's under the amount of pressure people think, and I think it's because of optics. I think it's if you're Howie Roseman, you're this team, and you're saying, all right, look, he's on a cheap deal, obviously his rookie second round deal. And if he asks for a contract right now, you're not talking 30 mil a year. You're talking somewhere in that 20 mil range. You're talking a decent sized contract, but nothing that's going to kill your cap space, right? Like we've seen a lot of these quarterbacks. Is that something that's palatable to a guy that's saying, all right, we're bringing on all these players where there's a lot of different guys that are going to have to get paid. AJ Brown obviously just got his money. That kicks in after this year. You look at a Devontae Smith, he's going to need to get paid. You just paid, Dallas Goedert, you love to pay these offensive linemen. There's a lot of questions, right? You got a lot of good players, good young players on this team. So do you want a quarterback that's maybe not going to be that guy that's going to be a top 5 quarterback ever, maybe never be a Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, but you're never going to have to give him Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady money. Just somebody that can kind of get you there and let the talent around him take you further. So to be fair, you did ask me, do I think he'll be the future of this team? And to be fair, no, I don't. I don't think that the Howie Roseman has it in him to say next year I'm going to pick a bunch of players to go around my mediocre quarterback. I just don't think he'll do that. I think he'll say I have a bunch of picks, especially with what's happening in New Orleans with all these suspensions. It looks like it's getting worse by the week with them. So it's like, we have their first round pick. things might get real interesting. You know what I'm saying? Things might get real interesting. So I don't think that if he has two, top 20 picks, that he's going to sit there and say, I'm going to stick it out with Jalen Hurts. I don't mind if he does, though, if Jalen Hurts isn't making mistakes, but I don't think that's going to be in his DNA. I think that he's going to look at this team and say, let's go out there and get us a young quarterback, whether, or even a veteran. We're going to want to get a guy there just because we want to be a passing offense. That's really what it comes down to. So, but James, do you have any questions for anybody, any team in particular?
Yeah, I got a couple questions for you so much, Joe, because we do this every week, so we can know my things with you. But
yeah,
first
definitely.
is for George and then to Ruben. Really, George, my question to you is, do you think this defensive line, is this the end of the road for them? I mean, I know we heard about in the news about Payne and, those two guys having the issues, and they were saying possibly they weren't going to extend one of the guys because of those issues up front. You got Chase Young. He's coming off the injury. He might command a lot of money. Montez Sweat. Is this the end of the defensive line, or do you guys kind of figure that out as far as working contracts, things of that nature?
I think it's going to be kind of like a puzzle, right? So basically, John Allen and Deron Payne were the two that got in a fight on the sideline. They already extended John Allen like last year. So I think he's getting paid $18 million a year. John Allen's like the face of our franchise. He's like our culture guy. He's on all of our posters. He's our main dude. Deron Payne, we signed a 5th-year option for him. So basically he is under contract, but he is kind of upset because we don't have a long-term deal for him. Like during OTAs, he'll do the weight room stuff. He'll do the whole, training camp notes and book work stuff in regard to that. But in regard to the 11-on-11 drills, he gets off the field because he doesn't want to get injured. That's kind of the game we're playing with right now. I think Washington would like to keep them, but at the same time, as they realize that defensive linemen are kind of plug and play, and you can kind of reload over the years. We drafted Phil Mathis, who basically was a 2nd-round pick from Alabama. He's a huge nose tackle, kind of a 0-to-1 technique defensive lineman. He's going to play with Deron Payne. They all went to Alabama together, Allen, Payne, and Mathis now. I think we're going to play a lot of 5-2 to try to avoid the run, to kind of combat against Philadelphia, combat against both you guys, actually. And I think we're going to kind of work him into the game and basically kind of see how that plays out. I think priority list is Montez Sweat's going to become a free agent next year. And I think Washington, like big picture wise, they want to keep Montez Sweat. They want to keep Chase Young because they want those bookend edges over time. And as you guys are seeing, the way the game's going, edge rushers are going to be about $25 million a piece in a couple of years, right? So I think they're going to basically let Payne walk, not because he's not a good player, but because they're not going to just pour in $100 million into that defensive line. So somebody's got to go. So I think the way it's going to go down for us is McLaurin's going to sign. I think everyone's like nationally, people are worried about McLaurin being signed. I'm telling you, late July is going to be signed with the Commanders. Probably get paid $25 million per year. I think we're going to overpay for him to be here, but because he's the character guy, he deserves to be here. But like, we're going to pay a lot for him. And I think it's going to be McLaurin, Sweat, and Young in the future. And hopefully everything pays out. The key is Sweat's production going to match what his price tag is going to be? And I think Sweat can be as good as Chase Young, but he needs to he's going to want top of the top 10 money, but is he going to get 8 sacks or is he going to get 15 sacks? Like, he has to prove that he deserves that money. We're going to see where that goes. So that's kind of where the D-line sits.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then for Ruben, appreciate your answer on that. And just for Ruben, this is for a player as well. I mean, I know we talked about Daniel Jones, but to me, I want to know about Saquon Barkley because, I mean, when he came out to draft, he was like the guy. I mean, everybody was talking about Saquon Barkley. He's had some injury-filled years. Obviously, the line has been beat up. You've gone through coordinators, things of that nature. Do you see Saquon Barkley? Because a lot of people have brought these same things up with Ezekiel Elliott. They're wanting to get rid of him now, but he's still staying there. You know what I mean? Is this going to be a situation with Saquon Barkley? Will he get another contract with the New York Giants, or are we seeing the beginning of the end to Saquon Barkley, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, thanks for the question. I think that's a really good one. To be perfectly honest, to me, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, to me, it's make or break year for Daniel Jones. So I believe it's also a make and break year for Barkley. I think it's sad to say that because I would rather keep Barkley, but the truth is, it's now or never. Okay. He had a great rookie season. Second season started out really well too, but not as good as the first, of course. Then he got injured. Last season he came back. Besides having a terrible O-line, you could tell he just didn't have the explosiveness that he had the years prior. Where years prior he would make that one cut, boop, and then gone. Last year he didn't have that. But if you pay attention to the NFL, which I know you guys do, I consider you guys the cream of the crop. So that injury, the ACLs, MCLs, injuries like that, they take a little bit over a year. So I'm not saying guys don't come back quicker. They do now because they've got that surgery's become more of a regular routine for doctors now. But the actual recovery, like when do you see guys come back from it and look like their old selves? That doesn't really happen until year 2. And what I'm seeing and hearing, and again, preseason right now, voluntary camp, everyone looks great in their boxers, right? That's kind of what they call it. It's like models and boxers. There's no contact. You don't really know what looks, but the point is, it looks like his explosiveness, his speed, his cutting is back. He stated that multiple times during voluntary minicamp. From what I saw on video, it looked like that to me. And several analysts on ESPN and NFL Network also stated the same thing. So it looks like he's back to his normal self. And to me, it really depends on the offensive line if they can give him holes. He really hasn't had that, even in his great season where he had the 92 receptions and he had the 1,000 yards rushing and the 1,000 yards receiving. Even that season, his offensive line wasn't that good. So all I'm saying is, I think really it's a make or break season for Barkley. I'm hoping the offensive line is the big change, but we do know he looks better this spring after injury 2 years later. Normally it takes 2 years. So just on that alone, I'm excited. But then you consider the new offensive line. That brings more optimism. But when it's all said and done, it looks good on paper. Let's see it. To me, this is his year, James. He's got to put it together this year. If he doesn't, I think Daniel Jones is gone. I think Barkley is gone, to be perfectly honest.
There it is.
Same thing with Sterling Shepard.
No, shout out to P-Bo from Dallas. If you want to read that was on your channel. $5 super chat, James.
Yeah, my dog P-Bo from Dallas says Dallas D-line stay sending your quarterbacks to the nation. Only Greg Lee left. How is this year going to be different? And 40 points a game. Hey, you feel me? Hey, I got to get my Cowboys on that good back. I appreciate you, dog. But one last thing before we end this. I don't now Rome done got on you, Joe, last time, and you're gonna have to do this again. Next time we do this NFC East thing, you better put me in my Cowboys color. You better put George in his Commander's color, and you better put Ruben in
Can
his
you
Giants
do that with
color.
separate ones?
Can
you do that with separate ones?
You better
I like
figure it
that.
out. You better figure it out.
I think if they make it separate, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta make it
better
sound
figure
right.
it
All
out.
right. I'll find
Get
something.
that
I'll
damn
do it.
green
I'll
off
do it.
my damn name. It's ugly. I got my
noticed that
Cowboys
too,
people like,
actually.
oh, yeah, my Cowboys people like, oh, see, you got that green up inside you because you let Joe get that green off when you're doing your shows now. See, I can't be letting you pollute me, dog.
Hey, bro, they know they love it. They know that green is a beautiful color of green. When it's just
green
me
is
and you, you know I hooked it up. So we'll get something for the guests as well. We'll get something for the guests.
Okay, good.
We definitely will. But shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We do have over 100 people still in the chat between all the channels. If you don't know who George Carmi is, definitely go check out Full Press Coverage. He's doing an amazing job over there. Go check him out on Twitter. His name is right next to his actual name at GCarmi21. If you don't know Ruben, check him out. He's going to be doing more content for the channel, doing more Giant stuff, keeping us updated. Obviously, you know who Big Game. Come on now, that's the dog right there. That's the homie. You guys know who I am. And this was fun, man. I love doing this. To be honest, this is one of the best, parts of this whole podcast. Getting these round tables together and just talking. And we gave them a little bit of everything, right? We got some good questions in. We got at each other's necks for a little bit. Phones were dropped. It was a beautiful day. So shout out to the Moan. All right, excuse me. Shout out to P-Bo again with the $2 chat, super chat. If you want to read that one for him as well.
Basically, he got the $2 holla. We appreciate them, P-Bo. And he says, Damone Clark, week 10. I will just say this, as far as that is concerned, Dallas does have a young core of defensive linebackers in Micah Parsons. They have Jabril Cox, who actually got hurt in that game with Daniel Jones, making that big tackle on Daniel Jones. He tore his ACL, but the trajectory of Jabril Cox is ridiculous. And then we got Damone Clark. Obviously, he had the neck injury, but Damone Clark, I saw him at LSU. They were teammates at LSU. They were both dogs. So if those guys both come back healthy, I'm just telling you guys right now, that's going to be a scary linebacker in Parsons, Damone Clark, and Jabril Cox. So he's right. Watch out for that in the future. Just keep your eyes on it.
Yeah, I'm shaking in my boots currently. You can't see it, but I'm shaking.
Cut it out.
I'm shaking. No, it's funny because a lot of Eagles fans wanted Jabril Cox. Jabril Cox was a guy that was big on with the Eagles fans. I like the
Washington wanted him too.
Yeah, so I can't sit here and talk too much junk. I give respect where respect's due. But at the end of the day, I'm tired of all this, giving all this respect. We took the gloves off. I'm gonna try and save Ruben's phone. Let's try and save Ruben's phone, and we're gonna end this here. I do appreciate everybody that is in the chat, whatever channel you're checking it out on. Again, big shout out to our guests, man. We really do appreciate your time as always. But you guys know what it is, man. That is James. I am Joe. And we are the best of enemies. Peace!
We're brothers, we're happy and we're singing and